You weren't recording. Oh, darn it.
Yep. Welcome to Journeys in Focus, where every path tells a story. I'm Brenden, your host, and together we'll explore the journeys that shape our lives and bring our world into focus. Adjust that focus, come along on the journey. All right, well, we're here today with Luis.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Pretty much the first guest for Journeys in Focus. So, can't wait. Hear what you got to say. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man.
So, really, you've kind of gone throughout the reins of sports, doing video within sports, whether it's just shooting game content to broadcasting and directing in a truck, to hanging out at Yankee Stadium for NYCFC.
Yep.
Really, what inspired you to get into the sports space?
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. I wanted to do sports medicine, but I got dragged by a college buddy of mine into the sports broadcasting club. And that kind of unraveled my whole career. I did that my freshman year, and then after that, I fully committed on it, and then pretty much spiraled into working for that school, working for St. John's, where we met, and then after that, working with New York City FC.
Yeah, and now you are full entrepreneur, I believe, with the company and Steve. How really take me on how that came about and why you felt that was the next step, that you really just had to do the entrepreneurial side.
Yeah, no, I think once for me, I always say this, I always want to keep climbing and growing. And it came a point where I wasn't feeling like I was properly being challenged. I think I was getting put in new opportunities at the club. So there was nothing bad that was happening there, but I also wanted something to kind of push me. And I had been doing managing both the business and working for the club at the same time all my entire time at New York City FC. So by the end of it, it was kind of like, all right, the business is booming. Well, not booming, but it's doing very well. And my time is getting kind of stretched in. I feel like I'm not doing one or the other very, very well. So I kind of was just like, hey, am I going to invest in myself, or am I going to invest, for a company? And there's no right or wrong answer. But for me, I was just like, hey, I kind of want to go out and do something for myself and grow something for myself. And that was like the new challenge to kind of scale up and grow. And yeah, thus far it's been only a couple of weeks actually that I've been full on that, but it's been definitely something that I'm enjoying, and I'm happy with the decision I made for sure.
Yeah, and working on the entrepreneurial side, seems like you guys have clients all over.
Yeah.
In which you guys even have traveled to different countries.
Yeah.
Talk about, how does traveling basically play a big role in finding your journey and really what you want to do, especially since your traveling was away from the sports side.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's more so you could put focus on the travel, but it's mostly about the experiences. I think for me, I think for anyone, right? The more experiences you get in life, the more you grow, you understand things, right? Obviously something simple for anyone is traveling to a different country to embrace a new culture and kind of, obviously in my sense or my world, like be able to work, in those worlds. It's basically you're pulling a fish out of water and you basically have to go. Like there's some things that which is like your job. Like, all right, I know I have to do this. I know I do this well, but everything is brand new. Like you're not comfortable in any environment. You have to figure it out as you go. So I think those were the best experiences. But traveling, I think it was kind of how the business first popped, I guess you could say. We had just started the business, and then we got an opportunity to go to Tulum in Mexico, and capture basically a brand new property that was being made, and basically a retreat center. And they invited a bunch of artists, and we captured the entire experience. And that was our first kind of gig with the business. And having that as a first gig was probably the best thing that could have happened to us, because we got put in a situation that's completely different. Like you said, I was in sports, sports, and then being in a retreat with artists is a completely different feeling. So I learned a lot, and Steve learned a lot. My business partner learned a lot about how to carry ourselves in a non-traditional environment that we're used to, which is sports. And then also just kind of like exercising our actual gifts and talents in an environment that was kind of completely out of the norm for us. So, it was amazing.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big change going from sports to that commercial setting for sure. Because really you were doing so much fast paced moving things, and there's a lot of running around through long hours of days, even though the commercial side of things is still long hours with everything you guys are putting into the shoots. But in the end, it's still a whole different thing, even though you still have a camera in hand and you're still doing what you like to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's all different, right? Like I think you mentioned before, the business does a bunch of different things. We're working from like high end, like literally we worked for It Cosmetics. So just doing kind of like event coverage for them, but also like more formal work for them in terms of capturing their basically conferences. But then also we'll do like literally like funny social media ads, basically iPhone content. So it's just like, it's a widespread. So the more experiences you get, the better it is. I mean, you're in the same journey. You were in sports, right? Like now you're kind of doing your own thing too. So it's like you're doing this. So it's like,
oh yeah,
it's a brand new experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think I would be sitting here. I think you could even say the same thing.
Nobody does.
I had to sit in on some of your broadcasting fixes that we had to take up in the truck, and I had to sit with the microphone and run through things with you, and you're like, how do you not know how to do that? Come on, you got to figure this out. I'm like, I don't hear you. I got to talk to you on the phone. But really, it seems like you guys are doing a lot within the business side of things, and whether it's here in the boroughs or traveling out to the far end of Long Island, all the way out to Montauk, or even doing your silly little social videos for the law firm.
Mm-hmm. You like those?
I've seen you ran over by a car or a bike, and somebody hits you and you fall off your bike. Oh yeah, I think we've all seen those.
I love that. I'm glad you appreciate them.
Oh yeah, it definitely gives you a little smile, and I think that's what you guys are definitely going for on that side of things. But really, you started, you're a native New Yorker, native Queens man, I guess we would say.
Yeah.
And then even for school, you didn't go far. You only stretched over to Brooklyn.
Deep Brooklyn.
And went over to St. Francis.
Yeah.
And really kind of just stayed here. What does New York really mean to you as to why this is where you decided, from school to post-school to working at St. John's to working at NYCFC and now running the company with Steve? Why New York? Why not LA? Why not Miami? Why not Nashville?
Yeah, I think the better question is why not New York? For me, it's basically been the place that's given me the most opportunity. Of course, I'm very lucky, and we're very lucky to say New Yorkers at home. It's probably, I mean, people like to say, especially as, it's like the capital of the world. Like everyone wants to be here. So when there's an influx of people from different countries and lands and, different mediums in terms of, kind of anything, like people come here to express themselves, right? And then in artistic form and what we do, like it's a media haven, right? So I stayed in New York because one, I got the opportunity again in college where I found something I liked, and I had a mentor there, Dexter Henry, that was influential, and he had influence around here in the East Coast. So I stayed here. So his relationships became my relationships, and then my own relationships again spread around here. And again, it just kind of like a snowball effect of just like, all right, like you go and meet one person, then you meet another. Okay, you get one gig, then you get another, and they're all within the same area. So I think I'm considering myself pretty lucky that I was born and raised in a city that's like so hustle and bustle, and that's so I guess for lack of a better term, it's there's so much opportunity here. So for me, I was just like, I've always wanted it. and I keep thinking about it, like, would I like to go? 100%. You know, you travel and you kind of get new experiences. So for sure. But in terms of what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do and build, like, my network is here, my business is here, and all the opportunities I continue to get and I've had are here. So, you know, it's just home, and it's something that I'll kind of ride until the wheels fall off, for sure.
Now, talking about opportunity, if somebody reached out to you from, let's say, Kansas, for all places, and reaches out and says, hey, Luis, I want to come to New York. Do you think New York is a great starting place for me to open my doors to new things or experience different things or find what I want to grow into and be in the future? Do you feel like New York is that good starting place for somebody, or do you think it's a later down the road type of situation instead of just coming right here post-college or something?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the main thing is any new experience that challenges you is probably the best one. But if it is New York, I think the main question I would ask is, like, are you ready for how chaotic it can be? You know, we mentioned it before. We work in the sports industry, right? There's literally, how many sports are there? There's you got 2 hockey teams, you got 2 basketball teams, you got a WNBA basketball team, you got men's and women's soccer too, you have football.
You have women's hockey now.
Hockey now, yeah, exactly.
That's starting to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. So you have so many opportunities, right? But it's like so much is happening, right? And that's my world, or that was my world. And it can be a little bit like overwhelming trying to figure out where do you fit in that space, or rather, I know freelancers who work in every space and they're like working nonstop, but it's also a lot of work because it is nonstop. So I guess it depends how ready you are and capable you are, because every personality, every person is different in terms of, like, all right, how can they handle, you know, the pressure, or rather the, you know, as much as there's a bunch of opportunities that got a lot of cool stuff here, there's a lot of, like, things that can pull you and spiral you out too, right? You can get a little bit lost. So it's just about, like, where's your focus at? And if your focus is growing and you're ready to kind of grind it out, then 100%. New York is one of the places to be. Like you mentioned, there's LA and other places, but New York is probably one of the major cities that you kind of want to grow and develop, because after that, the world's your kind of, you can kind of go anywhere in the world and kind of get work done, because if you made it here, it's the same, right? If you made it here, you can make it anywhere. It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. Now, you kind of spoke on how you know some freelancers that do everything under the sun instead of just finding one specific niche. Do you feel that somebody just starting up should find that niche and work on that, or should they tackle everything and see what they feel like works the best for them?
Yeah, it's almost a double answer. Yeah, that's a good question. I think the main thing is, like, in the beginning, nobody knows what they're kind of like gonna do, right? Like, I started shooting portraits, like, for photo, like, just like kind of artistic ones, like, throughout the city, but I don't really do that. You know what I mean? I kind of just fell into sport, and then kind of, like, now just leveraging my skills. So I think at the very beginning, you just try stuff and see what you like, or rather, what do you do for fun, right? So whatever you kind of do for fun and whatever you kind of express yourself artistically, and at least in video and photo, whatever interests you, then lean into that. Then after that, with the tools and the skill set, you're going to be able to expound upon that. Because some of the people that I've known, that they started in sports, but now they're doing more commercial work. They started in commercial sport, but then now they're doing, like, actual fashion and, you know, spreading off to, like, let's say automotive as well. So I think once you have the skills and understanding of the tools, which is the most important thing first, then you'll be able to leverage it. But yeah, try a couple things, see what you're most interested in, and then lock in there. And then after that, you'll be able to spread eventually in time. But kind of just find what your niche is first, for sure.
And you just briefly mentioned knowing the tools that you have.
Yeah.
I know we're both very on opposite ends of brands that we like to use.
Oh God, I hate this.
And you don't like that I'm on the dark side of things with the brands, but I guess we gotta.
Nikon is a dark horse?
I think that's what you say. I'm trying to get you to come over to the dark side, and you're not budging. I don't know. But us over here on Nikon side, we we got it, and we definitely got the tools to use.
Hey, man.
But touching on the tools, why is it important for people to really understand what they're doing and how they're using things rather than what people misconceptualize as you just pick up the camera, you go out, you do this, and it's easy. Is it easy?
Sure, yeah. Why not? It is once you understand something, right? I think I've met so many, and then maybe including myself, but I met so many people who kind of want to do what you're doing immediately. And I'm like, well, yes, sure. But I'm like, it's going to take time. Like, especially when I went and left New York City, there's people who had just graduated college and were joining in the video team. And, I'm like, they wanted to be like, why doesn't my stuff look like yours? And I'm like, well, because there's like 5 years or 6 years of experience that I have on you that is like, we have the same tools, but it's how do you use those tools? Yeah, I think it's important for any person, again, no matter what artistic medium is, to understand the tools that you have to create. I think everyone started, I think maybe you could talk about it yourself too. Like when you started, you were probably emulating somebody else and like learning how to like actually shoot photos, but you were imitating stuff, right?
My stuff back in the day, I don't know how I landed what I landed at times. Looking back at it, I'm like, I took this picture. I did this. Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing. I just made it look like I was doing something. And I guess sometimes it's, you fake it till you make it. Yeah. In certain situations.
Yeah. But it's like, you try things out, right? Like you kind of figure it out. And then I think in time you figured out your own look and you learn how to use the tools, right?
Yeah. And even every day you're still learning something.
100%.
Like you could go on a shoot tonight for all that we know. And you may go into it and feel like you want to change something up with how you're going to position this light this way rather than how you've always done it in the past, or changing something in your camera, or just basic little things of just putting a different filter on it and getting a more starry feel to it rather than your straight up like regular filter and just look to it. Yeah. Or even on the editing side of things. Yeah. How are you editing it? Is it your music? Is it your sound design? Exactly. Is it the coloring that you're doing to it? Are you looking for more warmer tones, cooler tones, and everything on that?
Yeah, I think we were both lucky. We both worked in sport, and I think I can speak for everyone in sport. We have to shoot the same thing literally all the time, right? Like shooting, whether it be basketball or like in my case soccer, there's certain things that are repetitive, right? So how can we capture it differently? It was a constant exercise, and I think we often spoke about it like every time, like how can we shoot this differently? And I spoke about it with my team in New York City. How can we shoot this differently? And working with clients now, like you're working with them all the time. Like how can you come up with a new idea or show off this piece of merchandise differently than we've done it before? So it's, if you don't have those tools originally of like I know how to use and do all these things, then you can't be creative and be playful. And then that's, once you know what you're doing, then you can be expressive and can kind of like figure out how things go. And like all the things you mentioned, there's a plethora of different attributes that you can adjust. That's going to vastly change the final product. So that's what you need.
Yeah. Like we all know where our favorite spots to shoot are. Yeah. Like we shot together at Madison Square Garden before, and wherever you would go, you guys usually never were able to find me because I always found a little corner. And
a little corner, or like high up in the roof?
Yeah, we all had our spots.
Sick photos though.
Once you keep getting what you're getting, and you like it, you want to keep going back. Yeah, and you want to keep feeling that same feeling that you got from that very first picture to the last one you'll ever take. And that's definitely what we're definitely doing at NYCFC. From watching your video that you just recently put out, you had everything from being on the field to being outside on the streets before game to being in the stands surrounded by the fans as goals were scored and going crazy with them as if you were a fan. Even though you still were there for work and everything, but you had to make it real. And that's what I feel like journeys are about. It's the stories that you guys have and you could tell. So when you're going into something, why do you go in with it usually having a set plan as to how you're going to go and to tell the story you want to tell? Or sometimes does it just like you go to sleep, you wake up, and it's like, boom, I got this. This is how it's gonna go.
You know what it is? I'll say this. Yes, I do have a general idea, right? Like, let's say a perfect example is like, I had to make a video for New York City that was basically encompassing the entire experience, right? So that's where you get those shots in the stands and before the game. I have gone through like basically the repetition of, I know what happens before the game. I know what happens during. I know some of the habits of like the fans within it. And obviously I know the habits of the team. So going into that, I'm like, all right, I know all the habits, and these are probably things that people don't see or really know. Or maybe if they do, like, let me, like actually make a larger impression with it and show it off. Then basically what is basically like a spur of the moment, I guess you could say, is like, all right, how do I capture that? I know I have to be there. I know this is what I got to capture, but what am I going to get when I'm there? That I don't know. And I think that's the beauty of the spontaneity with that stuff. It's basically I can go in, I have a general understanding of what needs to be done, but then, all right, how do I want to capture it? That's just up, I leave it up and then throw it up in there because something can kind of appear or be different, or rather there's some situation that's like perfect. I'm like, all right, great. I don't have like a locked in preconceived notion, but I definitely, like what you said, is having like an understanding of what the experience is important to me. And at the club, I was very adamant about doing that. They were trying to grow the club, right? And the fan base. So I was like, all right, what's this club all about? Like you got to get a feeling for it. And like we capture those emotions and those feelings. And then even with clients now, I'm like, all right, at the end of the day, what is the situation? Like, am I filming that? Like he said, the lawyer thing, which is like a very comedic example of it. All right, but like, what's the situation, right? That's a very simple way of doing it. It's like, all right, this is what the injury was, because it's a personal injury attorney. This is what the injury was, and then let him explain it, right? But we figure out different angles of like, all right, we should probably shoot it like this, like that, like that. But other clients, work for a spirit company. We're just like, all right, it's a spirit. What do people do? Like they get along, they interact. We just put it in different situations, and then once we figure out what the situation is, then I kind of capture around that. So it's definitely like understanding what you kind of want to show. And then after that, like, yeah, I just shoot pretty much. I just kind of figure it out as I'm there. Cause I'm like, I know this is what I'm trying to portray on video anyways.
Now, whether you're working every day, you're working every other day, how do you kind of go about with not getting burned out? Is burnout a thing? You're young.
Yeah.
Can it happen? Has it happened? Or does it lead to you are feeling one way one day, and then the next day you get up and you start doing everything, and it's like all of this just happened, and it was great that it did, because now it's brought new realizations to life as to what am I going to do next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Maybe I asked you I think that's a better question, because when I was at St. John's, what did you think of me? Like, did you think I was like burnt out or burning out? You can be honest.
Oh no, there was days I would walk in and go down all cheerfully and hey Luis, how's everything going? And
like
you would turn and look at me and be like, all right, I'll talk to you later, and I'd leave or go to class, because I had student responsibilities then, and then I'd come back. How's it going? Oh, you want to go get lunch? We'll go get lunch. And you'd still be sitting at the computer, just watching the little blue circle, just go around and around. And around. And it's like, why is this thing not loading?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually answer your question. I mean, burnout does happen, of course. I think I'll say this. It's a fine balance, especially now. I've tried to hone in and rather not allow that to happen. I think the focus for me is just like, all right, whatever needs to get done needs to get done. And early in my career at St. John's, it was basically like huge burnout, because I would just push. And there was no time to rest. So it's like, it definitely breaks you, or rather it helps you grow, because you understand like, all right, these are the limits, but it's not like I need to live on the limit all the time. I think that was the biggest thing. So it's like, once you understand, all right, what's your limit? What do you need? I think now for me, it's just like, don't get me wrong, I'm building a business, right? I was balancing this between, I was balancing the business between That, and then also my job at the time. So it was definitely tough. But then I would take days where I'm like, all right, like whether it be not even the whole day, like, all right, this night I'm just gonna like sink in my bed or just like chill on the couch and not do anything. Or I'm like, hey, like I haven't really like had a social interaction that's not with like work. Like I'm gonna go out with friends and like just be normal for like these next couple hours. But it's like being self-aware enough to know what are your limits. And I think, that comes with time, with experience. And then also like, sometimes you don't have it. Like in the beginning, we were cranking out stuff me and Steve would stay up to like 2, 3 a.m., like crank stuff out, like from like 5 o'clock to like 2 a.m. the next day, would do work. And then like, again, right after, take a break, then go right back into it. And like I think it was because we were trying to like load our website and like all social stuff and media. And it was a lot. So it's like, you have those days where it's like, you get pushed and you gotta, go as hard as you can. But at the end of it, we were like, all right, let's relax. Let's go out. Let's enjoy. Let's, break bread. But it's just knowing your limits. So sometimes there isn't a balance. And you have to be okay with that, but you also got to know what you're basically, again, what your limit is, so you can not break all the time.
Yeah, and balancing the personal life to business side of things has to be done, because even if you go out and you're going out with friends, you don't want to be talking business with them. You want to go out and enjoy the time that you have with them and do what you guys were going to do. Yeah. Rather than talk business, because sometimes they may not want to hear it, or they may not even have any interest in the field that we're even doing stuff in. Yeah. But to kind of go off of burnouts, we all have had creative blocks. What, in being Journeys in Focus, what kind of helps you keep that focus to kind of prevent a block from happening?
Yeah, I think from what I've noticed about myself, it's like if I have a creative block, because it hasn't really happened as of late, thankfully.
Do you think it's because of pushing out more content as quick as you are, or?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag. I think the main thing for me was just that when you're thinking about something all the time, like you almost become stagnant and robotic. So you don't feel creative. So when you take those moments to like live and like get your mind off things, your mind kind of just like decompresses. And then like, it's almost, you get like exhausted. You get like a creative exhaustion that you just can't be creative anymore, at least for myself. So as long as I take the time to kind of like, all right, do something and like step away. Like you gave the example of the video, right? The video that I put out when I left the club, like that took 3 or 4 days, and it was like in different blocks, and I would work 5 or 6 hours on it. Like it's a mix, right? I had all the content, but I'm like editing, cool. Like, all right, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know. Like I'm like moving clips around. And then after like a couple hours, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of like, I know where I need to go, but it's also like, the last couple clips weren't good and I don't feel right. So as soon as I feel like it's not right, or I'm like, I'm not making something good, I step away from it and then come back to it later. And obviously you can't always do that with everything, but taking the time for yourself to make sure that you can constantly be creative and not have that exhaustion is for me the way to get it done. I think, again, another point you harped on, which is like, I'm doing so many different things that it's just like, they have nothing to do with the other. So it's like, it almost like exercises a different part of your brain. But it's still important to be like in tune with yourself and just like, I mean, I can work literally all day, every day, but do I want to work all day, every day? No, because you're just going to get exhausted. You're going to get burnt out. And then that's just going to lead to, content that's not as inspired or alive as it should be.
I think the quality will start to go down, even though you could be pushing out loads of quantity of things, but the quality is what usually will attract future clients. Yeah. Or just to get more eyes on it. Yeah. Especially in this day of social media, where it's like, if you don't post, it's like the end of the world. It's like, where has this person gone? Why haven't they posted anything? Like, I've been a little slacking on that on my business side of things, with just doing everything with the podcast to just having a lot of different shoots here and there, not really having the time to post on social media. And it's a lot because there's so many different sites that you have to post on, and really posting on it, not all of them you could do the same thing.
Yeah.
And have you guys realized that area as which like Instagram is great for one thing, but then if you use TikTok, X, or YouTube, is it a different thing? And now you have to curate different content for each platform.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that is the topic of conversation we're having now. We make a lot of content, and for a long time or for a while, we were just repurposing it and putting it on our site. But I'm like, that's not really cohesive. It's just like, it's all over the place. So we had internal talks. I'm like, all right, what do we want to showcase? What do we want to basically, what is our voice online? Just like we kind of figured out for our clients, what is your voice and your presence, and how do you want to present yourself? We have to do the same thing. And it's not just showing off all the work we've done for people. I think there's a way to do it, but at the same time, like me just reposting a video, it's not it. So I found that we are still in the conversation of like, all right, these are the type of things we want to do. We had a conversation actually like yesterday, which was like, hey, this is the type of account we want to be. Like, this is what it should be. And we're like, great. As a cohesive unit, we're like, all right, now we can at least try to go forward and push that. And we know this is what we don't want to do, but this is what we want to do, and just push to that. And then I think in time, it's going to get better too. Like, we're going to make actual content proper and push for social. But yeah, sometimes you can just get, like you like you said, you lose it, right? You stop, you don't post because you're so busy and it's not in the front of your mind, but it's important, right? Who's going to trust somebody that can't build, like, if I'm trying to build somebody else's brand, why are they going to trust us? Because we can't even build our own. So having that, like with that mindset, I'm like, all right, it's important. Like, we got to do it. Like, you and me, we both got to do it.
Whether you're doing it for your website, your social media accounts, like, what are people looking at the most? Are they looking at your social media account, or are they looking at your website for the most part? Usually people will probably tend to go to your social media before your website. 100%. Even if you still send an email with, hey, check this out. This is what I have to offer here.
Yeah, look up your name on Instagram immediately.
Yep, they'll go to Instagram rather than going on to Google or Safari and looking it up on that side of things.
Yeah.
But really, to where you are in this point in your life, what 3 words to describe your journey so far?
3 words? I gotta think about that. 3 words.
A few moments later.
The first one is surprising. I gotta think about that actually, cover. It's a toughie.
Today, Junior?
Surprising, definitely. I want to say difficult, but I think that goes for everyone. And then the last one would be
Well, we're waiting.
I'm trying to be like thoughtful with these answers. More so because I'm trying to think of my life. Literally having like a little flashback, just like, whoa.
Wait for it.
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 Wait for it. Wait for it. Keep waiting.
Wait for it.
No, yeah. Surprising, difficult, and as of right now, I wouldn't say satisfying, but definitely like a sense of self-satisfaction. So satisfaction, I guess you could say. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And really, to kind of just wrap everything up, would you say everything right now is in that focus that you want it to be in? Or is there still a little part that is still maybe needing a little bit of a adjustment as to what takes you to the next step?
I think you mentioned something earlier, like you're always learning something. So I know what I'm focused on. I have to make the adjustments to make sure that I'm on focus and I'm reaching the goal that I want to reach. But yeah, I think you go through enough and have enough experiences and kind of figure out what you do and don't want to do. Like what I said before, like try a bunch of stuff, see what you like, and then kind of go from there. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, this is where I want to go. This is where I'm going to go. And now I'm like, it's just about me doing the right things and adjusting my personal life and my business life to make sure I reach those goals. So it's a mix of both, but yeah, definitely.
Well, I would like to thank you for having you come on as a guest for Journeys in Focus. And always remember, the dark side is always welcome. Got all 3 cameras set up here.
Never will I ever shoot on an Nikon,
hey,
ever.
You never know.
I'm a Sony and Canon boy.
Breaking out in the industry. Now we're going to go record a TikTok.
Oh, God, no.
Stay tuned for that.
No.
So, all right. That's a good take. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Journeys in Focus. After today's episode, I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to explore your own journey on a more deeper level. Like always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and share the podcast as well. Follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and much more. Until next time, adjust your focus and come along on the journey.